Hey, good morning, everyone. It's a delight to be here. And I'm kind of grateful that I'm first up on your morning because I know that Zoom fatigue is a real thing. So I'm catching you fresh this morning. Delighted to share with you some of the work we're doing and to see a really good group organized. I was just thinking it's been so many months since I've spent time in Pennsylvania. I'm based in Columbia, Maryland, which is where our corporate office is located, but have spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania over the last several years. Um, so have really missed that over the last several months, but hopefully that'll resume not too long. But we are excited to be continuing to do really great work with Pennsylvania and career technical education there. And so I'm going to take a few minutes to share with you two new efforts that are beginning this year in our longstanding relationship with the Bureau of Career Technical Education. And I've got a few things I'm going to ask you and a few things I wanted to offer to you. So if you just stick with me through the end of the presentation, I think it'll be worth your time. So what we'll do here, I'm just going to introduce myself and our organization a little bit, but then go over and if you have not seen some resources on best practices research that have been accumulated and organized over the last several years, I want to do that. And then also discuss a special project called the Perkins Special Populations Focus Area. And then also talk about industry engagement and retention, which is another project that we are doing with BCTE and Career Technical Education. And then just offer you some more information. Um, Lori, will you be monitoring the chat box? And I just feel free to interrupt me if something comes in that we need to address.
Sure.
But
Yes, I'll be
okay,
monitoring the chat and the Q&A for you.
okay, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
All right. So I'm the president, Hans Meter, president of National Center for College and Career Transitions since we formed it in 2012. Prior to that, I was a deputy assistant secretary in the U.S. Department of Education, the Office of Vocational and Adult Education. It's now called the Office of Career Technical and Adult Education. And the author of works on pathways. We have the Power and Promise of Pathways and the Pathways System Design Suite. And we've really been privileged to work with a number of state departments of education, as well as local school districts and community colleges across the country. And our mission is to bring an education environment where every learner has a dream and a plan, and every community has a capable, ready workforce. So we really see individual attainment and achievement going hand in hand with community prosperity. And so our mission is to make career-connected learning widely available through tools, resources, technologies, coaching, and technical assistance. And when we use the term career connected learning, we use that as a broad term that all educators can begin to embrace. It's not only career technical education, all that's a really important expression of career connected learning. But career connected learning, our premise is that it's really good for all students, not just for some students as probably the paradigm of the past. And when we talk about career connected learning, we talk about a career development model that really embraces elementary, middle school, high school, and beyond. And then helping students engage in career connected coursework where they get to try out and learn about and to really test whether those career areas of interest are going to be a good fit. And then the best way to really test for career fit is through work-based learning experiences. And so sometimes those work-based learning experiences affirm an interest. Sometimes they put up a red flag and say, no, that's not going to be a great fit for you. So, and Pennsylvania is really a leader with the career education work standards in promoting career connected learning for all students. I'm sure there's some places where it's further along than other places, but in terms of policy and structure, Pennsylvania really is leading the country in terms of this. So today I just wanted to ask one who's in the room. So just real quickly, if you're from a CTC, put in the chat box CTC. If you're from a school district, put in SD. If you're from a post-secondary provider, put in PD, PS that is. That's really helpful. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like we have a pretty healthy representation from career technical centers, and then we also have some school districts and a few post-secondary providers. So good. All right. And that kind of reflects the attendance list that I saw earlier. This is part of the Pennsylvania Technical Assistance Program, which is managed by the CTE Resource Center and then some supported through PACTA, and really ultimately supported and driven by BCTE and Dr. Briquette. So we're really been privileged to work with all these great partners over the years. So first I'll talk about the TAP project on serving students from special populations. If you're familiar with the Perkins Act, then you know that there are a list of important individuals from different special populations. And sometimes when people hear the word special, they stop there and they think special education. But we're really talking about a broader set of individuals. So of course, individuals with disabilities. But the Perkins Act also calls out individuals from economically disadvantaged families, individuals who are preparing for non-traditional fields, particularly for their gender, single parents, including single pregnant women, out of workforce individuals, English language learners, homeless individuals, youth who are in or have aged out of the foster care system, and youth with a parent who is a member of the armed forces. That one is one of the new ones. There was a few tweaks to some of the other ones as well. And some of this information we've already heard doesn't necessarily travel with the student over to the Career Tech Center. And so there may be a student whose parent is deployed in the military, and there may not be a defined way of knowing that, but they are identified now as a special population. So it's important to start to think about that, and or students who are in foster care or students who are experiencing homelessness. So I wanted to ask you one of the questions we just did a statewide survey that we haven't got all the results organized yet, but we were asking basically career tech centers to tell us which of these, how difficult is it in relative terms to address the needs of different special populations. So I'm just going to ask you to give us one answer in the chat box. If you would, which of these special populations seem to be difficult or challenged to serve? Not necessarily do you have the most of, and you know, a lot of individuals with disabilities, identified disabilities, are in career tech programs, but where do you see some challenges? So I see economic disadvantage as a challenge, homeless as a challenge. I hope we can save these chats because these are really good. Foster care, economic disadvantage. Okay.
Yes, the
And
chats will
homeless.
be saved for you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, this is helpful. And one thing that would be helpful for us, and we can follow up as we go through this project, is to find out more specifically uh, with students who are from economic uh, disadvantaged families, what kind of characteristics or phenomenon are challenging about serving them well? Is it that they have a disruptive home life, or are they coming to school hungry? Um, are they, behind academically, perhaps? So curious what those things would be. I see someone said here, active duty is a challenge because we cannot identify them. And then also with homelessness, what are the challenges with serving students who are homeless? Are they moving from place to place? They can't access transportation to and from school very easily. So I think we might follow up with you and just try to get a little more sense of some of those specific challenges. Um, with economic disadvantage. Parents have other priorities, and so maybe they're not as supportive in the child's education, giving them some of the supports that they might need because they're dealing with other family challenges. That makes sense. And certainly right now, with all the job disruptions that COVID has created, I'm sure that's probably a little more pronounced and urgent than ever. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I wanted to tell you and show you a resource that we have. It's on. You get there through the PACTA website. So I'm going to exit this PowerPoint slide deck and show you. We've been for the last 7 years collecting stories and examples of what career tech programs in the state are doing, and then organizing those into some pretty simple to read and follow, and then follow up information. So if you go to the PACTA website, which is pacareertech.org, and then you scroll down this page, it's kind of subtle, but you'll see here CTE resources and documents. And this will take you over to another website called PA CTE resources. And within this is where we've been collecting and documenting and featuring just probably a couple hundred different practices that are organized around these topics: administrator leadership, adult CTE, assessment, career development and post-secondary prep. We have engagement, instruction. We have just started to reorganize around the special populations categories. We had a lot of things that we didn't call them that, but now we've organized them. So for instance, you look here for individuals with disabilities, and you'll see for each of these, so problem-based learning, here's a project from Lehigh Career Tech that is specifically part of their trades program, but it helps students kind of a problem-based learning to build and design a better classroom chair, and specifically for children with autism. So the students with autism are really the beneficiaries of this design project. But here's a student success form from Erie County Career Tech School that students and their case managers work on to inform families about the expectations of particular CTE programs, and to really working to make sure that the needs that are identified in the individual education plan are going to be addressed at the Career Tech School. So we already have a little bit of a running start on some of these practices around students with disabilities. But we're going to be continuing to build that out over this next year. So that's really the nature of the Special Pops project. But please take advantage of these. Just hundreds and hundreds of hours have been invested in identifying these practices and then writing them up. So for instance, here's a NOCTI prep from Upper Bucks County Career Tech. So you'll see a little at a glance description, what kind of supports are provided as students are preparing for the assessment. So the other thing which we've added this year, well, over the last 2 years, we've been adding more and more video walkthroughs where we have the creator of an innovation actually walk through just a short PowerPoint and narration presentation to describe the project. So it gives you a little better feel for how the intervention, how the instructional practice works. So there's really a mix of instructional practices here, and as well as school-wide structures and processes. In general, do you have any questions about this? This would definitely be really a valuable resource if you haven't used this before. So let me take us back then. So just to describe the project a little bit more in depth. So the goal of the project is to continue to find through a targeted investigation and gathering of best practices that positively impact students from these different special populations. So we're working with CTE programs across the state to identify and document promising practices. we are just about to form a special populations working group. It's already been decided who's going to be on that, but we made a really good faith effort to cover CTE programs from all across the state and from different urban, rural, and small town sectors and suburban. And then we're also offering technical assistance and advisement to CTE programs so that they can enhance their services to special populations. So I wanted to just, I'm going to ask you to provide me your contact information if you want to be put in the queue to receive technical assistance. But really specifically, my email is very easy to use, Hans, Hans, at nc3t.com. And does your school have a program or promising practice? Uh, does your school or program have a promising practice you'd like to share with us? I'll come back to this at the end of the presentation, but we'd love to hear some ideas. And it may seem like you've been doing it for a long time, and it may seem kind of commonplace, but if it's working, that's what's important. And we'd like to hear about it. And it'd be better to have too many things to consider than too few. So if you can share that with us, and then we'll kind of vet that with all the other nominations and ideas we're receiving, and then we'll decide which ones to follow up with and document. But just to have some more ideas to work with would be really helpful, particularly for some of those the foster care, homeless, economic disadvantage. If you have anything with students who have from military families, that'll be really helpful. So let me ask you now about, I just share with you, that is, about our strengthening business and industry engagement. And we're going to do a little interactive activity here. But the project goal here is to strengthen career technical education programs, competence in business and industry engagement. In the summertime, when the TAP programs are announced, we suggested that we would serve 15 career tech centers. There was a lot of interest in this, and 20 career tech centers signed up. They'll be engaged, participating in some different informational webinars and also getting some individual coaching. But it's really about how to find and engage business and industry partners, and how to really get those business partners involved across a whole continuum of activities. Certainly, occupational advisory boards is one way, but there's really a lot of different ways, as you know, with work-based learning and with employer volunteerism in your programs to have employers involved. Now, of course, everything is a little upended for the time being as we're learning how to work in this more virtual environment, and certainly social distance and cautious environment. But there are some ways of still keeping business partners involved. And some of them may have long-term benefits, as we have more occupational advisory committees that are run through virtual meetings. That might make sense to have more meetings of shorter length, but as a way to keep your occupational advisory board members more involved. And certainly to have some virtual mentoring, group mentoring, things like that can also be done virtually to some degree. So that's what the project is about. And one of the things that the project starts off with is an industry engagement and retention self-assessment. So this tool, again, if you want to send me an email at the after this session, I'll be happy to send you a copy of this. I just wanted to show you how it's organized. It looks at 6 areas. And the first is about recruiting member employers to be part of your program, connected to your programs. And some of these things really happen best as a school-wide function, and then some of them happen, also as an individual program function. But there's a section on asking questions about recruiting employers, and then how to design your partnership, how to organize and run your partnership activities, and then how to look at measurement and evaluation, how to report out the benefits of the project or of the partnership activity, and then how to sustain your business employer involvement. So just going to ask you to, you don't have to put this in the chat box, but just to take a pencil right now, and I'm going to read these questions on outreach. And then if you'll just answer them, and it'll give you a little sense of what the broader assessment would look like. So here's the standard. School leaders are involved in the Chamber of Commerce, economic development, workforce development, other community-based organizations. And this is really vital for a school or a CTE program to have some visibility in the community. And so then you would just give yourself, give your school a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from either it's not really happening at all, as far as you know, to it's fully implemented or it's somewhere in between. So that would be the first question. Second question in terms of communications would be, our external partners are receiving communications from the school with partnership updates and information. Basically, are we communicating with our external partners the things that other partners are doing, the business related activities, the community related activities that our students are doing with our external partners? And when we use the term external partners here, it certainly means employers. It could mean other, often governmental organizations are employers and they participate, or you might have post-secondary partners, or you might have community-based organizations. So whatever those external partners are that are working with you, are they getting a newsletter essentially from your school, just kind of keeping them in the loop? Are the partners themselves participating in recruiting new members, new partners, are by sharing their stories and testimonials? So for instance, you can include a story or a testimony of one of your partners in that communications piece. But are they actively doing that? And then the next question gets to your advisory board members. Is there a defined responsibility among your advisory board members that part of their job is to recruit additional industry partners? And that doesn't necessarily mean that you need more people on your occupational advisory board, but your occupational advisory board should really be your hub of business involvement for your programs. So are they trying to bring other volunteers and other work-based learning opportunities into the program? And is it a clearly defined role that you have for them? The fifth would be our school officials regularly reaching out and communicating volunteer opportunities, so that we're keeping the door open, that we want volunteers to be involved in our programs. So this is both a school-wide function, but then we also have to make sure that the individual programs are set up to give worksite, to give tours, to have volunteers help teach and co-teach and demonstrate and things of that sort. And then sixth, do your educators, and some educators are extroverts and some are introverts. I'm what they call a middlevert. I'm kind of an introvert that has learned to be an extrovert just because I want to do certain things. And so I've learned to be more of an extrovert. So do your educators know how to network within industry and find partners? And this is really important. Sometimes educators came out of one part of a business, of an industry sector, and they think they know the whole industry sector, but they might not. So they do need to be encouraged to build networks and relationships outside. Maybe they came out of, the certain part of the construction trades, but they really need to know not just commercial, but also residential and different trades within that. So those would be questions in terms of some of the outreach that you could ask, and start to get a sense of how well developed your program is. So again, I'll send you a copy of this tool when we're finished today. And I just want to let you know, we do have some additional resources, even if your school wasn't able to be part of those 20 schools that are officially part of the cohort. We just recently created a free mini course through a tool called teachable.com. So if you go to nc3t.teachable.com, then you can actually take a short course. It's about an hour and a half or so. And it's all about finding and engaging employer partners. And perhaps you could share this with your administrator, and you could get some Act 48 credit out of it as well. We're not set up to officially offer that, but certainly is a great learning experience. And if you want to go deeper in this issue, we also have a resource called the Employer Engagement Toolkit. So I know I'm probably ahead of schedule. Yeah, I am, but that's fine. I'd like to have give people time back when I can. But let's just kind of stop here and just ask: are there any questions about these resources that you've seen today, or any questions about um, working with business and industry, or serving special populations that you want to raise?
I'll open my Q&A panel here and see if
Yep,
anybody
I'm
has
taking a look.
anything. Okay.
Let me just ask in the chat box, if you had heard or seen, or perhaps even used the resource, the CTE resources page. If you could just say yes, just as a chat entry. I'd just like to see who in the audience has actually seen that before. So I see 3 people that have used it before. 5, 6. Could you please show us how to access the page once again? Thanks for asking. I'll be happy to. All right. If I can get out of this. There we go. All right. Yes. So the direct way to access the page is just at pacteresources.com. So that's the direct way to access it, pacteresources.com. You can also, if you go to the PACTA website frequently, pacareertech.org, you can access it from that website as well. All right, so a few people knew about this, about the product, and I have a question here I'm just going to address. In travels to different schools in different parts of the country, have you seen any creative methods of employer engagement? The most creative methods we've seen of employer engagement really have to do with engaging the employers to set goals and measure progress in your programs, so that they really feel some partnership and ownership over your programs. And that creates a tremendous amount of buy-in. It requires some turf sharing from the instructor particularly, but if you want to have a great program, then your employers need to feel that they have some skin in the game, and that their ideas, and they can't get everything they want, because usually some employers work at a different, they may not be able to get everything they want just because of the way educational rules work. And they may have to realize, well, this is not necessarily just a job training program, it's an education program that is preparing students for a wide range of opportunities. So those things be, set aside. If employers are really bought into helping set goals and measure progress, and try to help the program improve, then you have true partners. And one of the really interesting things that we've heard about is just when a program is on the chopping block, or at risk in some way, when you have partners who are really invested in the program, they go to bat for you. So they become advocates for the program. So that's, I mean, I think that those are the most creative way. I don't know if that's exactly creative, but that's a really important thing to think about in terms of employers being part of your program. And we've heard that probably the most broad um, uh, employer engagement initiative that we've ever seen is in the city of Nashville, Tennessee. And they'll tell you, the employers will tell you that they really felt that they were brought in as partners, not just as sponsors to the program. So that's probably the biggest feedback I would give on that. The NC3T mini course, there is no cost. It is free. But some of the other resources that you can find out do have a cost to them, but that particular one is free. Just thought it would be a useful thing for people to participate in. You can go to the NC3T website. We have some other services and projects and that you can learn more about. We just started a podcast 2 weeks ago. If you want to subscribe to that, love it. So and again, I wanted to ask you, I'll just sit here and see if there's any other feedback or questions that we have. But I would love to get an email from you if you were part of today's session. And I'll send you the industry engagement self-assessment, and I'll also send you a PDF of this PowerPoint deck. I'll actually be sending you a link to a Google Drive folder so you can just download those things. But I would really like it if you could share with me any promising practices that your school or program does. And then we may want to follow up with you to learn more about that. And if you would like to put your school or program in the queue to receive some technical assistance. So essentially, as we get all this information on special populations put together, and we're learning more about serving different special populations, then we're going to be having just really one-on-one technical assistance sessions, maybe small groups, depending on the interest area. So if there's a group that wants to go into homeless interventions, then we'll have some sessions on that. So why don't you say if you'd be interested in technical assistance, and then if you'd also tell us which particular special populations are of greatest need for you, and then we can put you into those categories. And then when we're ready to start providing technical assistance, it'll just all be virtual, of course, but we'll then set you up and we can invite you to those technical assistance sessions. We want them to be useful, so it won't be just a one-way webinar. They may be just individual. At some point, we want to make sure that we're giving you exactly what you need to be successful. So they're either going to be very small groups or kind of one-on-one type discussions. So anything else I can answer for you before we finish up?
Hans, I'll make sure that you get, all the chat information and the participant information as well, so that you can send them what you want, what you would like.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for the warm feedback. I hope it was short and sweet. So
Great.
everyone have a great day.